Have you ever had something that you needed to do, but you have just been putting it off for quite some time? My 914 had a fuel pump that was going bad. I knew it was failing because every time I would go to start it, it would take longer and longer for the fuel pump to wake up and provide fuel. Then one day, it just never woke up and the car wouldn't start at all. This video is going to be about getting the things that one should have done long ago. So why have I been putting it off? Well, it's because the fuel pump was installed by me under the fuel tank, which is a really good location for it to be because it gets the fuel pump out of the hot engine compartment. My car used to vapor lock in the hot Texas heat, and the solution that worked for me was moving the fuel pump to the front of the car. However, it's a bad location when you have to replace the fuel pump, because that means you have to pull the whole gas tank out. Another reason I didn't want to change the fuel pump just yet is because I have been contemplating switching over to fuel injection for this car, and I'm currently running a low pressure fuel pump which is designed for carburetors. So I didn't want to go through the trouble of changing the fuel pump and then having to do it all over again. So the more I got to thinking about it, the more I thought, is there a way I can just change this fuel pump and do it in such a way that it will work for both carburetors or for fuel injection? And I think I came up with a solution that works. So this video might be of interest to you if you are contemplating relocating your fuel pump, or if you're considering changing your fuel pump for the purpose of changing over to carburetors or changing over to fuel injection. So this is what I have in mind. This is an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator that I have found. And what's different about this one is that it has two different springs that can be swapped out, which means that you can adjust the pressure all the way down to 3 psi or all the way back up to 30 psi for fuel injection. So in theory, this would allow me to run my fuel injection pump with my carburetors and then later convert to EFI fuel injection. Does this sound like a plan? Either way, I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. Okay, so for the fuel pump, I decided to go with the fuel pump that is made by Dansk. So here's the part number, and you can see we got some classic autos here, and we see our 914 represented there too. Anyways, not sure. It says Denmark and Denmark, Germany. Not sure if it's actually made in Germany or Denmark. More than likely it is not, but let's just pretend that it is. Okay, so here we go. Let me just see what we have here in here. This is the unboxing video of the of the Dansk fuel pump. Okay, so there it is. So we got some verbiage on there. It says classic line, and it has the little Dansk logo, just kind of nice. And I kind of like these Dansk products that they've been making lately. They seem to be filling a need here. So anyways, so we'll go ahead and take this out of here. And that is our fuel pump. And oh, we got a little fluid in there. Okay, some sort of oil. And there we have our little classic line logo and the part number there, which is nice to have the part number there. Anyways. Now if we look at our pump, we're going to see what we have here. We have about 11.91 millimeter inlet, and we have just about an 8 millimeter outlet. 12 millimeter hose, and we're just going to see if we stick a 12 millimeter, how does that kind of fit in there. So it fits okay. It definitely needs a clamp, but it does seem to fit. So yeah, fits just fine. Okay, I had to lay out this fuel line system in order to make sure I had all the fittings and fuel line sizes that I needed. So we start here with our fuel tank, and the fuel tank has a supply line that is 10 millimeters and a return line that is 8 millimeters. So when we come out from the 10 millimeter supply line, we're going to put on a 3/8 inch piece of fuel line, which is basically 9.55 millimeters. It will fit over this, and then we have to reduce from 3/8 to a 5/16, basically a 10 to 8. So we're now running at 8 millimeter fuel line, and the reason we do that is so that we can get this guy fed, which is this is our fuel filter, and so he has this 8 millimeter side there. Then the other side of the fuel filter goes up actually to 12 millimeter. So then from 12 millimeter, we're going into the pump. Remember, the pump has this big 12 millimeter, just like the fuel line does, the fuel filter does. So then once we're into the fuel filter, the fuel pump, we think, okay, we're good. We're coming out at the 5/16 or the 8 millimeter, but the chassis once again the 10 millimeter size. So now we have to increase to the 3/8 or 9.5 millimeter there to get into that. So this setup requires 2 reducers, basically the same size, and it requires 1, 2, 3 different types, 3 different sizes of fuel line. Okay, and so that's from getting you to the tank to the chassis. Now getting back from the chassis, the return line is going to be an 8 millimeter and the tank is an 8 millimeter. So that is just going to be a simple line going there. And so all of this, the reason for these different sizes and changes, it's because, well, we're doing something a little different here than the car was designed for. The car was not designed to have the fuel pump in the front, and it wasn't designed to use this style of fuel pump. This is from the later, this is basically like a 75, 76
style fuel pump. So we could have done this another way. We could have done it with this style of fuel filter. Is this, you see this one has 8 millimeters on both sides. So if we would have done that, we would have had to transition here, but then we would have to transition again to get into from this fuel filter to that larger size. So that's why I just decided to go with this one. It meant one less transition if I'm going to be using this style of fuel pump. So as you can see here, this is all the parts that are needed to do this fuel pump installation in the front of the car. So we've got our fuel pump, fuel filter. We've got the 3 different sizes of fuel line. That's 8 millimeter, 9.5 millimeter, and 12.5 millimeter or 12 millimeter. And then we've got assortment of clamps, fuel injection style clamps. Now for the fuel injection hose itself, what are we using here? This is some of the writing that's on it, and what we have here, the part that really matters is this. It's right here. Okay. Oh, and one thing I forgot to add is these little adapters that we're going to need to take us from the 10 millimeter to the 8 millimeter size. And so we need at least 2 of those. So the next part of this is once we get to working on the fuel regulator, we're going to have the regulator, and we are going to have these 3/8 inch NPT fittings that we're going to have to install in here. Okay, and then so we've got those, and then probably because we're not going to use every port, I've got some plugs that we'll just plug it up wherever we don't use the openings. So that's what we want to do. We want to put that system into this car and make our little 914 happy again.
So that is the basic setup, and that is the basic direction of where we are going. We're going to continue this in the next episode. So come on back and we will go over the installation and hopefully getting this car back on the road. Until next time, juice.